Get ready for another video in Alex's garage. Alright, so today in the garage we're going to be installing the throttle linkage onto the Weber DCOE 45 carburetor. And we're going to make some adjustments to the way the linkage is by default to make room for some customizations that I have planned in the future. Alright, so when you're looking at this, there are a couple of really obvious mounting points. You have these 2 points right here for the risers. You have these 2 bolt threaded areas right here. That's where the throttle linkage is going to go, so the cable can come back over here and pull on the throttle. And then we have some physical constraints. You obviously have, the heater, you have proximity to the exhaust, and we have to be able to accommodate this vacuum tube, which I think I'm going to replace altogether. This vacuum tube feeds the brake advance. This is the brake assist. It's a vacuum assist chamber for power brakes. But normally you just have a rubber hose going from here to there. But I think that's a little untidy. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to get some more tubing like this, and I'm gonna rig a 90 degree here. We're gonna make it stay kind of parallel here. I'm gonna go beyond the linkage, so that it doesn't affect anything, and then we'll do another 90 here. We'll put a rubber section in here because the engine's going to vibrate, and you don't want the hose not to be flexible and to pull out. So we'll put kind of a lazy S of rubber hose between that elbow and here. But those are future plans, and obviously, when you're working forward, you don't want to work yourself into a corner. So you always have to look ahead and see what things are going to go into different places. The other thing that we're going to change is the way that this choke mechanism works. This right here is the choke mechanism on the DCOE. Normally it has a cable mount right here, so you'd run a cable up, around, and underneath and then go back to the firewall. Well, the problem with that is that the dash on the 77 doesn't have an aesthetically pleasing way to mount a choke cable. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one of the auxiliary cables, or I'm sorry, the auxiliary switches on the dash, and I'm going to rig a electric solenoid to activate this choke. These are really inexpensive solenoids. You can get these on Amazon. And the idea behind this is that when you activate it, it throws this direction. And you just have to match the voltage and the distance that it will throw. And it has a spring for retrieval on the way back. This also has a spring, so between the 2 springs we won't have to worry about it coming back. But what that's going to do is it's going to change the way that the cables are all going to mount in here, because we have to make enough room for this little square dealy bobber to sit right here and give it this much room so that we can put a little bit of linkage between it and push that thing in that direction. So we need to look at the way that this is mounted, and we're going to make a little adjustment to the way that the throttle cable is mounted right here, so we can make room for this mechanism right here. All right, so let's get started. This next little step here, you just need to put these posts in. These little posts, they have a little jam nut that sets them in place. The only thing you really need to keep in mind is that they should be evenly set with the height. Now you can adjust these up and down. The idea behind that is if you want it to be a little taller to make room for different linkage or whatever, you have that flexibility. And the other thing is, a lot of these kits are made for multiple cars, so whatever works for your car, you just need to make that adjustment. So you put these little posts in. I polished mine up nicely, and then you put your shaft in. The shaft is going to transmute the turning toward the torque from this side, which is where the cable is connected, and it's gonna connect over here, and from this side you'll be turning the throttle. The throttle is a single shaft all the way through, and it only has to turn about 90 degrees. When you're looking at it down here, here's that's all the play that you need. That right there. So let's go ahead and tighten these things up, and then we'll move on to the linkage, or the actual cable. All right, so we got everything all connected. Got these connected over here. This one here is this is a slave. Basically just says for every degree that I turn here, I'm going to turn over here. So you can see how that mechanism works. Got a couple little ball joints in here. This adjustable right here. But the trick is you just need to make sure that your linkage allows the throttle. See the little slit in the threaded area here. When you get it full throttle, you can see that little slit is see better from here. It goes horizontal. That means that those throttle plates are also horizontal. Okay, so anyway, over on this side, this is where your adjustments start to become laborsome. You need to make sure that you get this to the point where A, you have leverage without creating undue stress on the cable, but you also have play. So they sell these little spacers that you can put on the end if you want to keep this shaft from moving back and forth. But in this case, I'm just going to use this, you know, kill one bird with two stones kind of thing. And it's going to hold this shaft from moving back and forth. There's already a cap on this one over here, but this is going to keep that from moving that direction. All right, so anyway, what I'm getting at is this shaft right here needs to have enough travel that it can go. If you had it completely horizontal, then you'd be pulling against the horizontal before you could get it to go down. So you have to have it at least a little less than horizontal so that you can get that cable to play. The next thing is you need to figure out where that cable is going to go, right? So the mounting bracket is going to go here, and then the end of the cable, this little end piece, need to figure out where that's going to go, because we're going to make a custom bracket. So you just need to figure out how long this travel is so that you can figure out where the end of that cable is going to be. This is adjustable, so you have plenty of plate in there, but you just basically put those two squash nuts on over the bracket, and then the cable will go through there. Now the old cable that was on here, let me show you what that looked like. So here's the sheath to the old cable, and I've seen a couple of forums where they have people who've set up the linkage on these, and you know, when you buy these kits, these cables come in a kind of a size that's intended to work for both left-hand drive and right-hand drive vehicles. So this cable is, when they sell it, it's kind of long, and so normally there's a little thing right over here. It comes up, and the cable needs to come around and get into this little space in here. Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to shorten this cable by about 3 inches, just to reduce how much cable we have floating around inside the engine bay. And also, the end of this has a bit of a pinch right here that you wouldn't want to have a pinch in your throttle cable. So I'm going to clean this up and make it just a little bit shorter, so we can get a good routing of this cable. And I'm going to clean up that little mounting bracket that goes right there. We'll polish it up nice. And then we'll get to making a bracket that we can install right here that will accommodate both the cable mount and the eventual electric choke that we're gonna fashion from that electric solenoid. So let's get on to that. All right, so I've got the cable cleaned up. I've got it stretched over to where I think I'm going to do. I've already cut off the little bit of scrap from the end of the cable right there. But you can see there's about 2.5 to 3 inches of cable outside housing that needs to go, just so that I can have a good route and there's no kinks or extra loops. So I'm going to go ahead and take about just until where my thumb is right there. I'll cut that off and then we'll move forward. Okay, so now we got the cable all shortened, stretched out the way we want it. I've built a bracket. This bracket is extra long so that I can put this solenoid in here. Eventually I'm going to use that to advance the choke through here. I'll put a little linkage from here to there. But the return spring needed to be far enough away from this mechanism over here, so that's where we're at on that. Everything fits, but one thing that is going to cause a little adjustment, let me change the camera angle, is this mechanism goes below the cable. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these posts and we're going to raise them up so we can get this mechanism to match up right there with where the cable comes out. So all this work that we did, we need to take it apart. But that's okay. It's just more work. It's more fun. One thing I did add in here is I made a little bushing. This bushing will act as a spacer. That way I don't have to buy a clamp or anything. This clamp here will still be the end of where that bearing ends up, but this bushing here allows me to add a space. That space makes it line up just right with the cable. So, you know, mocking it up, making minor adjustments, and then setting it all in place, and then we'll be good to go. So let me go ahead and pull those posts out and raise them up. I think a good ½ inch, and hopefully there's enough space on those to get them up a little higher, but that should take care of that. All right, so that should do it. I raised the posts up a little. You can see the little jam nut puts them in place, and by doing that you can see that cable is almost perfect. Good enough for me anyway. I added a spring on here that gives you a really good feel on the gas pedal, and here you can see my custom bracket. You can see that there. This bracket is going to have another purpose when we get to putting that solenoid in. That'll be another video we'll show you on that. But just to break it down, this is the linkage on a DCOE 45 on a 1977 MGB. And what we did today is we set the posts, and eventually we had to set them to a different height so that the posts would match up with the cable. Cleaned and ran this the post through. Instead of using an additional clamp, we put a bushing in right here so that this piece here is a spacer between those, and you only have to have the one clamp. The other one here is a clamp here, and there's a little clamp in there. You can see a little spring clamp on that one. This linkage here connects down to the carburetor, and when it's fully engaged, you can see that oops, there you go. That little nut is horizontal, and that's it. Each one of these are a little bit custom, so whatever you have to do on yours, you can use this as a template. And if you have any questions on fitting your DCOE carburetor, just let me know. Shoot a comment in the comment section. If I can't answer it, I'm sure someone else who's following me will be able to help out. That's it for today. Have a good Memorial Day.